So I read an interesting article the other day on bicycleretailer.com, link will be below, and it really sparked some debates with some customers, and I thought that this was a perfect time to start opening this discussion about e-bikes, and more realistically, who's regulating them? Before we dive headfirst into the e-bike dilemma, let me say, if you enjoy this kind of content, please like, subscribe, definitely hit the bell notification, that helps tremendously. Also, at the behest of some of my friends, I did post some affiliate links down below. I'm not one to hound you guys, you know that. Please support your local bike shop, support local business, but inevitably we all buy stuff off of like Amazon, the internet. If you do end up doing that, if you click any of my links down below to any product like on Amazon, as long as you purchase something within 24 hours after clicking my link, it doesn't even have to be whatever I sent you to go buy, I get a commission out of it. So it's cool, it helps me out, and if you want to support me, that's one way to do it. So thank you. Let's jump right into the video for today. In 2002, the Code of Federal Regulations actually defined an e-bike, and that e-bike, even though this was 21 years ago, is defined as a type of bicycle with a motor that is no larger than 750 watts, whose maximum speed on a paved level surface when powered solely by such a motor is less than 20. That is why so many big companies are really sticking to their guns with Class 1 e-bikes, because no matter what, even if the laws get tweaked a little bit, those bikes are relatively safe. As far as not being illegal to go on the road or the definition changing for them to be a motorcycle, those Class 1 e-bikes are safe. If you guys don't read bicycleretailer.com, I implore you to do so, especially if you're interested in topics like this whatsoever, as I am, since I am in the bike industry. So I want to more or less go over this article because this is what sparked some debate. There's 3 classes of e-bikes. Let's go over them real quick. You have Class 1 e-bikes, which are what most people are used to. They are pedal assist only, no throttle. That means you have to be pedaling to make them move in a maximum assisted speed of 20 miles an hour. Class 2 e-bikes. Those have a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour but do have a throttle. Class 3 e-bikes are pedal assist only, no throttle, but a maximum speed of 28 miles an hour, and all 3 of these e-bike classes are limited to 750 watts, which is the equivalent of 1 horsepower. But with the 3-class system, there's like 39 states that have actually put that into law, but it is still not a federal regulation. The federal regulation is still that 20 mile an hour, 750 watts, no throttle. What makes Class 3 e-bikes very interesting is that they are in this gray zone where technically they're not a motorcycle, technically they're not a bicycle, technically they'd have no regulations. Now there are a bunch of companies that do what I would classify as a Class 3 e-bike. Specialized has one, Giant has one. They're all road bikes, right? Or gravel bikes for that matter. Class 3 e-bikes will go 28 miles an hour. But they're kind of, as it states, in a league of their own. So the reason they're in a classification of their own is because People for Bikes, they read the federal e-bike definition a little bit loosely, and that's why I think some of this is gonna get rewritten, or better defined for that matter. People for Bikes points to the word solely, which if you go back to the actual definition of an e-bike at the federal level is a bicycle that can go 20 miles an hour solely by the motor. But Class 3 e-bikes use pedal assist. Motors are never the sole source of power at 20 mile an hour, 28, or any other speed. Therefore, they're not technically an e-bicycle, correct? People for Bikes Policy Counsel Matt Moore, he claimed that the CPSC, which is the Consumer Product Safety Commission, told the group years ago that when the 3-class system was first being promoted, that they did consider Class 3 e-bikes bicycles, even though they really, in my opinion, don't meet that definition at the federal level of what an e-bike is. It is all good that Matt Moore with People for Bikes said that the CPSC said that Class 3 e-bikes are bicycles, but there is not a single document that confirms the CPSC and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration officially agree with People for Bikes reading of that law. And to clarify this even more, Matt Moore asked the CPSC to clarify this issue, that they haven't actually recognized the 3-class system, what exactly is a bike? What does that word solely mean? Let's define this a little bit more. As of right now, the CPSC has not actually responded to his request for clarification as to what an e-bike is. To reiterate, Matt Moore from People for Bikes, he's a policy counsel, asked the CPSC years ago if Class 3 e-bikes were considered bikes by them, and they told him yes. But he could not actually find and pinpoint a policy that says that they are. So it's one of those things where it's all good and well if you're conversing with somebody, but nothing matters unless it's in writing, correct? In January, Bicycle Retailer actually emailed a CPSC spokesperson who said that Class 3 e-bikes fall under the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So you've got People for Bikes saying one thing, Bicycle Retailer getting something completely different whenever they email them. And to clarify that they didn't, misspeak, a couple weeks ago, Bicycle Retailer asked that same spokesperson again, and they have it in writing. The CPSC claims that they confirm that Class 3 e-bikes are not within their regulatory jurisdiction. Then Bicycle Retailer contacted the Traffic Safety Administration, and then the Traffic Safety Administration did respond that they are gathering information on and discussing with the CPSC how to best oversee the safety of e-bikes. So right now, it kind of seems, at least with Class 3 e-bikes, that it's up in the air. That there is nothing in writing, but I will say that the CPSC, in my opinion, is regulating them. Even from this article, they agree as well, because the CPSC has made mandatory recalls. Most notably, back in 2020, I think it was Cannondale that had a bunch of recalls on e-bikes from the CPSC. There's a different sort of recall when you are being forced to recall versus a voluntary recall. So for right now, uncertainty is king, but they are being reviewed. The CPSC, Traffic Safety Administration, they are trying to figure out what to do with these Class 3 e-bikes. I don't think you're just gonna not be able to ride your Class 3 e-bike anytime soon. That's not what I'm saying. But it would be nice if at a federal level they actually started doing the 3-class system, because the last time e-bikes were defined, that was 21 years ago. But the Traffic Safety Administration and CPSC, People for Bikes, everybody's biggest concern is really the unclassified e-bikes that are coming out. Basically, if a bicycle is by the company's standard defined as an off-road vehicle, there's no regulations. You can just do what you want. CPSC is really pushing to have these manufacturers test their batteries, because these bikes are catching fire, exploding, causing huge house fires, burning businesses down. There's been a few bike shops that have burned down because of e-bikes. Now, for the most part, it's been, I know Specialized had a bike that was catching fire. They're the only real big brand that I know of. Comment below if you know of any other ones. But a lot of these chintzy online brands that you can buy an e-bike for $1,000, those are catching fire. I describe the e-bike craze right now like skateboards were in the 90s. In the 90s, if you were around, skateboards kind of took off like a rocket, and there was a new skateboard company, it seems like every week. Most of those companies are gone now. That is the same thing with e-bikes right now. So when people come into the bike shop and they go, wow, your e-bikes are $2,400 starting out, I can go buy one off of Amazon for $1,200. I all tell them the same thing. I was like, one, be very leery of those because they're very chintzy, they're built very poorly, and they're catching fire. And you really don't have a good warranty with any of those things. It's not a new technology, but it's new to the masses, I would say. And so many of these bikes are just garbage. And just look at like Rad Power, for instance. That's one that a lot of people that are looking at e-bikes knows. I think they are on their 3rd lawsuit and they are hemorrhaging money because of this. It's these kinds of companies I would be leery of buying from unless you got a heck of a deal, because they might not be around in 5 to 10 years, whereas these bigger brands like Giant, Specialized, Trek, at least you might have some dealer support in the future. But to clarify what this article is basically saying is that back in 2002, the definition of e-bikes was a max speed of 20 miles an hour on a paved level surface solely by the motor. That means that these bicycles that can go 28 miles an hour, but they have no throttle, so they are pedal assist. That means they're in this limbo area. CPSC says that they are out of their regulatory zone. The Traffic Safety Administration says, hey, we're not regulating them either. At the federal level, at least, there's no 3-class system for e-bikes, and the Class 3 e-bikes technically are in this weird area where they're just not, you don't know if they're a bicycle, you don't know if they're a motorcycle. Technically, if it's a motorcycle, I think it's if it's over 20 miles an hour, it might be 25. I don't know that law, but you have to tag it and it's considered a moped. With these going 28, I know they would at least fall into that range. And if the Traffic Safety Administration does have to start cracking down and calling Class 3 e-bikes mopeds, those bicycles are going away, because that means they're gonna have to have lights, turn signals, a tag, you can pay taxes on them, all these things. I don't think it'll go that way, but when the CPSC says that they see Class 3 e-bikes as bikes, but then you can't actually point to a document stating that, like, it's very confusing. It's one of those things that perfectly describes our government, I think, where it seems like so much is lost in the ether and nobody talks to anybody. So I am glad that Bicycle Retailer is really pushing this, putting articles out like this, gets it recognized. It has made People for Bikes reach out to CPSC and to the NHTSA to try and really nail this down, actually get a clarification. That way, in the future, you know what you're buying and you know what you can do with what you buy. That is the biggest thing with this. To me, it's almost not a safety issue. It's not what I'm worried about anyway. It's more of I would hate to sell somebody a bicycle that a year from now they have to put a tag on and pay taxes on. I would be PO'd if that happened. I don't think that's gonna happen, but it's not, out of the realm of possibilities. So, I love you all. I hope this was a quick discussion. Hope it got you thinking about what the heck are e-bikes. What are they classified as? So let's go ride the trainer. All right, bye.